Captain Nirella Voss had spent most of her 32 cycles in the service of the Corelli Federation. A veteran of border skirmishes and peacekeeping missions, she was known as a calm, tactically brilliant leader. Her violet eyes and silver cranial crest marked her noble lineage among the Corelli, an amphibious race native to the waterworld Vealora. She'd met hundreds of species, negotiated with silicon-based gas forms, once stared down a Narnal battle screecher with just a smirk. But she had never ever seen a human in real life. Not until today. The humans were late arrivals to the galactic fold. They'd burst into interstellar relevance just a few cycles ago with their erratic brilliance and unmatched creativity. Rumors flowed through the Federation about their wild emotions, stubbornness, and terrifying adaptability. And, among the less professional channels, their strangely magnetic physical appeal. Nirella had scoffed at those tales, until Fleet Command assigned her to escort a human diplomat to the capital moon of Seralith Prime. His ship, the Vera Rubin, docked with her cruiser a few minutes ago. Now, standing in the airlock chamber, Nirella adjusted her uniform and steeled herself. A hiss, then the airlock door opened, and he stepped out. Human males were supposed to be unremarkable compared to the sleek grace of the Thari, or the crystalline beauty of the Miranai. But this one. His name was Lieutenant Ethan Ward. He stood tall, well over 6 feet by Corelli metrics, with dusky skin, short-cropped black hair, and intense eyes the color of stormwater. There was a roughness to his features, like he had been carved from stubborn rock. He moved with a kind of relaxed power that made her nerve sacs twitch. "Captain Voss," he said with a polite nod. His voice was low, rich, and maddeningly smooth. "It's a pleasure." Nirella's gills flared. She hated how her body reacted. It wasn't just physical, it was something else. Presence. A heat behind his gaze that unsettled her in ways she couldn't explain. "I'm here to ensure your safe passage, Lieutenant," she replied, voice clipped. "Follow me." As she turned, she caught a faint smile tugging at his lips. Smug, almost like he knew. The middle, magnetic miscommunications. 3 days into the journey, Nirella realized something alarming. She looked forward to their conversations. Ethan wasn't just attractive. He was fascinating. Unlike most diplomats, he didn't posture. He asked questions, deep ones, about Corelli art, their water rituals, the bioluminescent symphonies sung in the bath caves of her homeworld. And he listened, truly listened, in a way that felt rare and intimate. In turn, he told her stories of Earth, strange beasts called whales, oceans filled with salt, food so spicy they hurt. He talked about climbing mountains just for the view and dancing in the rain. "Rain," she murmured during one conversation, looking out the observation deck. "We have water but no rain. Our oceans are still. Gentle. You'd probably hate a thunderstorm then," he said with a grin. "I don't hate storms," she replied. "I am one." He laughed. And that sound, unrestrained, warm, filled the air like a sudden sunrise. Later that night, she replayed it in her mind longer than she cared to admit. On the 5th night, the cruiser hit a debris field. A mine from an old war, left undetected, struck their port side. Systems went critical. Nirella led the emergency response herself, barking orders, redirecting energy, coordinating medical teams. But it was Ethan who saved the ship. When a coolant leak shorted the navigation array, he dove into a radiation zone to manually reroute the failsafe, without hesitation. By the time Nirella arrived, he was slumped on the floor, eyes bleary from exposure. "Lieutenant Ward," she yelled, cradling him as engineers rushed in. Why would you do something so idiotic? He blinked up at her and whispered, Just didn't want to miss dinner with you tonight. The turning point, a touch too close. Ethan recovered quickly to her relief and irritation. The man smiled at near-death like it was a joke. The crew respected him now. She could tell. They looked at him like one of their own. And worse, so did she. The breaking point came the next evening. She found him alone in the arboretum, gazing out at a synthetic pond designed to simulate an earth lake. A soft mist hovered over the water. You know, he said without turning, this place almost reminds me of Lake Crescent. Cold, deep, peaceful. She stepped beside him. There is beauty in cold depths. He looked at her. Something unsaid passed between them. I've never met anyone like you, he murmured. You're sharp, commanding. But underneath all that, tense. Underneath all what human? You're curious, he said. And kind. In your own intense, terrifying way. Her crest flushed with bioluminescent pink, a sign of embarrassment among her kind. I could say the same, she replied softly. You're reckless, emotional, and entirely. He stepped closer. Attractive. Inconvenient, she finished, but her voice lacked conviction. Silence fell between them. He reached out and brushed a tendril of her crest gently, fingers light. It was a gesture of deep intimacy among the Coralli. She didn't stop him. She leaned in. Then her comm unit beeped. She stiffened, stepped back. Captain Voss here. Ma'am, we're approaching Seralith Prime. Docking protocols required. Understood, she snapped, voice like ice. Prepare for descent. She didn't look at Ethan as she turned and left. The climax. Tensions on Seralith. On Seralith Prime, the delegation was tense. A faction of conservative species opposed Earth's inclusion into the galactic fold. Protests erupted outside the Assembly Dome. Threats were whispered in dark corners. Ethan was a prime target. Nirella assigned 2 squads to protect him. She hovered near him during the meetings, silent but watchful. He noticed. Of course he did. You're mad at me, he said quietly as they stood on a balcony overlooking the capital's glowing spires. No, she said. I'm mad at me. He raised a brow. Why? Because I let my guard down. 'Cause I forgot my place. I am not supposed to be distracted. He stepped closer. You're not a machine, Nirella. She flinched at the use of her name. You're allowed to feel things. Not when it clouds my judgment, she whispered. And if what you're feeling isn't a cloud, he asked. What if it's clarity? She looked at him, truly looked. No lies in his gaze. No games. Just quiet sincerity. She reached up and brushed her fingers against his jaw, tentative. I don't know what this is, she said. But I don't want it to end here. He smiled. Then let's make sure it doesn't. The ending, chosen paths. The vote passed. Earth was accepted. It wasn't unanimous, but it was enough. At the celebration, surrounded by delegates and lights and pomp, Nirella stood beside Ethan. For once, she allowed herself to relax. The tension between them was still there, but now it felt like gravity instead of a storm, anchoring instead of tearing. As the ceremony ended, he turned to her. So, what's next for the famous Captain Voss? He smirked. Another mission. Another system. That's my life. He hesitated. Would you mind if I tagged along? As cultural envoy, of course. She pretended to think. Only if you stop jumping into coolant leaks. No promises. They both laughed.